Hey, very good morning. Let's see. Today we are going to be continuing on with shamatha. So again, the calming, cooling effect of meditation. And I guess lately I've been looking at kind of the cross fertilization or how the different practices go to together. Yesterday we were working with Metta jhana, so how the concentration and jhana practices um, can tie in with the metta. So I kind of want to flip the script a little bit, how the metta can potentially help with some of the shamatha exercises. So as always, for some of you, this will be some review. For some of you, this will be rather new. So let me share this screen here. Okay, very good. This works. Okay, so I just want to talk about this term Vedana. So some people here might be familiar with it. It's just that a simple sense of feeling tone. So it's not feelings in terms of the emotions as we understand it in the contemporary Western context of anger, fear, sadness, hopelessness, disgust, shame, embarrassment, joy, love, humor, etc., etc. But it's the assessment of sensory stimuli as either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Yeah? So something arises in our awareness, then right on the heels of that experience, there's some tone, there's some experience of that being either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. I look outside, the general sense of the sun and light is very soft right now. There's this very subtle, pleasant tone to that I feel. Few hours from now, when the sun is right on top of everything and it's rather hot and oppressive, I'll be looking at the same light with my eyes straining, and there'll be a sense of unpleasant. So if we pay attention to the Vedana, it's always happening. There's always some degree of pleasant, unpleasant, neutral taking place. So this can be a very subtle experience when not clearly seen. So we go through the day and the Vedana is always happening. And if we're not aware of it, well, it's just off our radar. So what's the problem with it being off the radar? Well, the avijja, the ignorance factor. So vijja, Pali for ignorance, the not knowing of that something is occurring, and in the context of our subjective experience, if we are not knowing clearly what is taking place, what are the influential experiences, there's a tendency to just go on autopilot and just kind of accept and just kind of allow, permit these various hindrances or unwholesome mental factors to proliferate. Yeah? So the problem is, if there is an experience of unpleasant and we're not aware of it, then it could potentially lead to aversion. There's an aversive experience that we can then begin to have, and it start to subtly or not so subtly build up in the background this angry, frustrated, disappointed, just not liking our experience, and just all of those anger flavors can begin to grow. Yeah? If we're having a pleasant experience and we're not necessarily aware of it, there can become this unconscious background kind of liking, I want more, and it leads more to like this craving experience, which creates its own impulsiveness and goading us to act in order to reach more towards that source of joy or pleasantness, unskillful joy, and what we like or want or desire. In both cases, the craving, the aversion, these are some of the core hindrances that are getting towards moving us towards suffering, or that sense of dukkha. The unpleasant, displeasurable gap between how life is and what I want things to be. Yeah? So pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So if we're not aware of the neutral, then we tend to just go unconscious. Quite literally, we go on autopilot. So usually it's throughout the day. It's the neutral that I think is oftentimes the problematic place, because it's like as we're getting up in the morning, as we are brushing our teeth, as we are doing the things that we've done thousands of times already and we'll do thousands more times, there's a tendency to not pay attention, and we kind of go on autopilot. And that autopilot breeds kind of the unconscious. It just in this context, I mean by unconscious, I'm just checking out from my experience, and I'm not being awake, I'm not being discerning, and I'm not engaging in practice. So again, the craving, the aversion, the unconsciousness, it's the three poisons. It's the way that I like to formulate the three poisons. It's kind of the three legs that create this stool that suffering can sit upon. So I'm weaving together a few concepts here with the Vedana, the pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. They're happening all the time. If we're not aware of it, then that's how it can lead into the craving, aversion, and unconsciousness happening. So here's what I'd like to propose is kind of the metta towards feeling tone idea. Yeah. So here we have kindness, metta, within the Theravadan lineage. It's, the metta practice. I mean, that's what it's called. And it's kind of a shorthand for cultivating kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. And it's usually kind of the way that people enter into these, being able to cultivate these altruistic states of mind. In the Mahayana traditions, it seems that equanimity has more of the precedence in terms of that's how we enter into being able to cultivate these. So in this way, in this formulation, I'm kind of giving the metta kindness as well as the equanimity kind of the core entering points, whichever you choose. And then so here on the sides, we have the unpleasant. On this left side, on the right side, we have the pleasant. So underneath it, we have in red, so the unpleasant, when not handled wakefully, can lead to aversion. The pleasant can lead to craving. So if we're applying the metta, we're applying equanimity, towards the unpleasant, then that can start to transmute into more of a tone of compassion. That willingness to be open and turn towards and bring the kindness to it. We're applying kindness to the unpleasant experience we're having. We're in a sense, that's creating this internally generated or internally directed empathy, this internally directed compassion. Yeah, we're being, in a sense, opening up, turning towards, directing that kindness towards the pain. It's a compassion experience. And of course, there needs to be a degree of equanimity to be able to hold that, the sense of acknowledging and accepting that this is how it is right now. Similarly, with if we're turning that kindness and equanimity towards the pleasant experience, transmutes more into an appreciative joy. So there's a pleasant experience. If we're awake and open and aware, we're directing this kindness towards it. Oh, this is a pleasant experience here. And I'm opening, turning towards, and this kindness towards it. That's cool. This is pleasant. I'm allowing this experience to be here. And of course, the equanimity, being able to accept that this is how it is, and also accept, and that experience is now fading away, and I can let go of it as well. Yeah. So the equanimity, I feel, is very important, because with the unpleasant experience, the equanimity allows us to, allow it to come up without fighting it. And on the joy, pleasant side, the equanimity helps to let go of the pleasant in a way where we're not craving after it. So this is what I'd like to work on today. Even though it's under the guise of shamatha, just the cooling, calming effect, this is a way that we can utilize a metta practice towards our experience of the feeling tone in a way to kind of help facilitate this calming, cooling effect. Last week on shamatha, we were looking at the three poisons exclusively. So today, this is a particular way that we can look at how to work a little bit with kind of what happens underneath the three poisons. So that's the idea of what we're doing. But before we go into it, anybody have any questions, comments? Yeah, Rochelle.
I always hear you talk about shamatha as the calming, cooling effect. And the calming part I get, that's always been kind of, at least my understanding concept of using breathing, shamatha, etc. But cooling, I mean, it's not counterintuitive. It just doesn't seem. I'm not sure how the cooling part fits in.
Sure. Yeah. What's up with that cooling phrase? Well, I mean, within any, how should we say, any times we're feeling some degree of distress, dukkha, there kind of comes with it a sense of urgency. Yeah. So there's a sense of, oh, I have an itch right now. I really have to scratch it. There's this urgency. It's like things kind of heat up. Shinzen talks a lot about the idea of drivenness, and how is it that we can quell drivenness. So the shamatha aspect, that quality of mind that we're cultivating in meditation, is how is it we can take that drivenness out? How is it that we can cool down that sense of urgency that is, one of the facets or aspects of dukkha. The discontent that we have, that sense of a problem. One of the definitions that I like when they talk about shamatha, it's an odd phrasing, but like a cooling as if, or resolving as if a problem, as if we're resolving a problem. So anytime there's a sense of a problem, that internally can't really rest. Psychologically, I'm trying to figure out the problem. Emotionally, I can't rest because something's wrong. So within all this, there's this drivenness and there's this urgency factor. So the shamatha helps to kind of, just turn down the fires, so to speak, or neutralize the urgency. And so we can talk about how the equanimity practice itself really, provides that cooling effect. So we can enter into the meditation like, okay, this itches, this hurts, it's a problem. And then later on in the meditation, it's like, all right, this itches, but it's not a problem. This hurts, but it's not overtaking my experience. Traditionally, we could look at that as kind of the cooling effect that happens as the shamatha is being cultivated. So we could look at it in terms of like a Vipassana, in terms of we're going into the sensations, we're kind of breaking it up, and there's the disidentification from the urgency. We could look at it through that lens. That's the discernment release, as they say in traditional Theravada. Then there's the awareness release, which is, okay, I'm aware of it, but the shamatha effect is just turning off the need to intervene in some way. In Shinzenian parlance, that would be, if we're having, sufficient enough equanimity with the experience, then, there's no problem, so to speak. Yeah. Does that make it tied in a little bit better for you?
Yes, it's kind of exactly like it's just cool down, calm down,
Yeah.
get over it or something.
Get over it. That's the basic, if we can sum up all of Buddha's teachings to one phrase. Yeah. Okay. So in the spirit of, let's get into things. Allow yourself to come to a comfortable upright seated position. Allow yourself to straighten up and settle in. You can start off the practice cultivating shamatha by leaning into simple contact with breath. anchoring your attention to a part of the body that actively engages in breathing. Be it the nose, throat, lungs, belly. Just choose a part of the body that actively breathes and anchor your attention here. To the best of your ability, allow the thoughts to be in the background, the see in, hear in experience of the mind's generating a fantasy planning daydream. It's not the focus today, so allow that to be in the background. Constantly reaffirming, reattuning your attention back into the body, into the feeling space of the body. As we're engaging in simple contact with breath, can we notice any of the pleasant and calming qualities of breath? The in breath, what's available? Top of the in breath, what's available there? The out breath. And the base of the out breath. Okay, good. So recognizing that breath is always as part of this experience. Feel free to keep it within the scope of your practice this morning. Or at any time, you can just exclusively come back to breath. But for now, I invite you to just expand the scope of focus to include this full body, allowing your awareness to free float within the body. Much like the fish in the aquarium, exploring something here, checking out something over there, just observing, being open, curious about the various sensations that arise. And very subtly, if we hang out with parts of our experience from moment to moment, we can discern whether something's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So moment by moment, just be aware of a sensation, contact it, hang out with it, and then label. Is the experience pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? So it might sound something like this. Pleasant, unpleasant, pleasant, neutral, unpleasant, and so on like that. It can be subtle, it can be fleeting. We're not looking for extremes. It's okay to guess, it's okay to not be sure. Just attune yourself to the feeling tone within each sensory uprising. So we're contacting, labeling. Really allow yourself to explore. What is that experience of pleasant? What is that experience of unpleasant? What is the experience of neutral? Within that, are any of those three poisons present? Does any of these experiences that we're contacting lead us into having a slightly aversive response, craving response, or unconscious response? That is to say, do we grasp on it in a way that it cultivates aversion or frustration and anger, a very strong dislike that creates discontent? Does the liking have a sense of a preference of that experience, a going after? Usually feeds into fantasy planning daydream. And in a way also helps to facilitate the unconscious part or the going unconscious, the dissociating, breaking contact, spacing out. Can we be awake and aware? Maintain contact with the rise and fall of the sensations, discerning, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, noticing if it begins to fuel a sense of a craving, an aversion, or unconscious. So we can slow down your sample rate, slow down your pacing of noticing. Hang out with your facet of experience for a little bit longer. We've been contacting, labeling, exploring. Can we apply that acceptance? And in this form or fashion, kindness, equanimity. If something's unpleasant, can that kindness, equanimity take more of a form of compassion? Just being able to be with that which hurts and having this compassionate response towards the displeasure. If something is pleasant that arises, can we turn that openness, turning towards that kindness? Does that allow us to have more of an appreciative joy, allowing us to take in, derive a sense of fulfillment? And of course, that equanimity helps us to let go of it. And be it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, can this equanimity be there, this willingness to feel through whatever arises, while still having a deeper, more underlying sense of being okay. Of course, we've been contacting, labeling, exploring, and accepting. And can we release, relinquish whatever it is that you're exploring, holding on to in each moment? Can we let go of it in order to be open to what is arising the next moment? So, this quality of letting go, this quality of releasing, relinquishing, and opening up to what is new in the next moment. Yeah, good. So we've been doing a lot of efforting and training in a particular way. So I invite you now to just drop all technique. Allow yourself to just abide in whatever is occurring. Attempting to just allow yourself to rest in your awareness, faculty of awareness, whatever is bright and awake right now. Just resting in that and doing nothing. Okay, at ease, everybody. Allowing yourself to be open to continue to receive the merits of your efforts during the sit, just with eyes open and engaging in conversation. So, what did you notice? What did you observe? What was relevant for you this morning? Of course, any questions that you might have about the practice.
Just real quick, I didn't have a very concentrated experience today, but towards the end of the sit, I had the biggest itch on my face, and I told myself, I said, "You're not going to move, you're not going to touch it," and it kept on coming back. Like it was bad, and it like finally like it was probably like a good 7 minutes that I like sat there, and then when the bell rang, I was like, "Thank God!" So I felt like it was a little progress.
As you were contemplating the 7-minute itch,
Yeah,
were you able to discern the presence of the craving, the aversion, the unconsciousness that might have been arising within that?
I just kept on like focusing, telling, like using my words to keep on saying, like, put the shamatha to it, focus on your breath, like focus on the point of the breath that's like engaging in the point of the body that's engaging in the breath. Tried a little like metta to it, but then it was like I'm here, I'm not going to listen to it, so I just really just focus on the breath.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
And did it at any point kind of diminish kind of the suffering component of the itch?
In the beginning, no, it was very prominent, but then towards the end it did.
Towards the end, it did.
But yeah,
Okay.
like I actually was saying like, this is torture, like I'm being tortured. But then I remember like your story about the guy with the ants in the woods. I'm like, this is nothing like that. So that kind of got me through it.
But if it was diminishing towards the end, I wonder what would have happened if we had continued on for one more minute.
I think it would like keep on, like it was going in cycles. It would like go away and then it would like fiercely come back.
Okay.
So it was interesting. Yeah.
So you notice at some points it would diminish and would go.
Yeah. Yeah. But then it would like snap right back. And it was like so intense that it was almost like I couldn't use my brain to say, where is this coming from? Because I was so focused on trying to just get rid of it. But
Getting rid of it.
Yeah.
It's the aversive quality right there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So actually the itch would go like this. It would come into being, pass away from being. As it was passing away, would you be aware of the qualities of relief, the qualities of like whatever else becomes a little bit more available in your resource?
Actually, I probably wasn't doing that. I was probably looking ahead and saying, okay, good, it's going to go away. And then it would come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably wasn't, being in that moment of watching it dissipate. I was more excited that it would be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that's always or frequently available to us, is those minor itches and discomforts that if we really open up and begin to explore them and become curious about them, really take us potentially to the root of all of our drivenness. Yeah. And if we can just have a little bit of equanimity with that experience, it goes a lot towards building our overall affect tolerance and resiliency. So I definitely encourage you to continue to explore in that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Anybody else? What happened for you this morning? What did you notice or observe? Yeah, well.
I like that description you gave early on about the soft light outside your window and how later in the day, which was pleasant. And then later in the day when the sun becomes more direct and, and we are going to be having a hot week or two coming up, at least according to what I've seen in the weather, then aversion arises. That directly just, led to my experience. It was interesting that this morning there was a dullness that I had to deal with, which still lingered. And I think it's because I had a couple glasses of beer last night toward the end of the evening, just to try to help get to sleep. I didn't feel like using melatonin or something. And so there was this, there's that feeling of dehydratedness, and there's this, and then there's a very hard light coming in this morning here. So that plus a strong streak of tension down the muscles of this face and here. And so there was this general mood of unpleasantness. And, I was really relating to what Lisa said about that because this was persistent throughout the set. And I could see how it fed, very clearly how it fed this kind of discontent that I kept on trying to apply equanimity to without getting aversive. And to that, and sometimes that's successful. So today it was difficult. I kept on, I could just see how that slid right to the old negative storytelling. So I kind of just observed that for much of the set.
Good.
I couldn't really, I guess maybe I couldn't get concentrated enough at the beginning because of the discomfort. Or maybe I just would have needed more time just to do straight shamatha. But I had trouble with the focus today because shamatha required to get there requires a sharp, a heavy duty focus at the beginning. For that's just reporting what I ran into.
Very good. So you're able to just kind of be aware of kind of that localized sensation of tension as well, kind of the kind of global or full body kind of that happened.
Yeah, and the mental process, just because I kept on pulling myself out of the story. And
so the fact that you were able to directly maintain contact with the unpleasant, you're seeing how the aversion was coming from that experience.
It was very clear today, and I'm trying to feel good about that instead of cursing the experience, because today, I guess I'm just really reactive this morning. I don't know.
Some days we're like that. I'm having a similar morning, unfortunately. In spite of the plans of how I like it to be, just my aversion is definitely on high this morning. So as sometimes you're kind of aware of the unpleasant, you're maintaining contact with it, and then sometimes you're kind of going off into story. When you're more in contact with it and having some equanimity, would you notice kind of the general aversion go down at all?
Normally that is the case. Today there was an undercurrent there. Okay. I don't think I could completely disengage with it during this last set. That's
okay, good. But still, the fact that you were willing to open up, turn towards, and just kind of rest into, or rest your attention into it directly.
Well, I noticed that yesterday that was helpful, being able to do that during, and I got in I guess a lot of practice yesterday actually. So and over parts of the weekend, I was better able to attend to some things because of that. And so today, maybe it's just catching up with me, or maybe I'm just getting too old to have a beer. Too late.
Could be all of the above.
You can find anything.
Okay, we reached the top of the hour. Let's do some homework for the day. So as you go through the day today, just can you be aware? What's the response? Whether you're just noticing or you're engaging in a particular activity, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Can we tap into that? How is that arising? And is that inclining the craving, aversion, unconscious to arise? But if we kind of lean into it with kindness, can that transmute the unpleasant into having a compassionate response towards our internal pain, an appreciative joy towards whatever is pleasant, and just the overall equanimity, or that sense of acceptance of whatever it is allowing. So, and does that bring a little bit of a cooling effect? Okay, very good. So let's go into a dedication of merit. By the merits of these acts and other such virtues, may we attain a liberation for the benefit of all beings. We bow before those who come before us on the path, and to those who come after us on the path. Okay, everybody. Have a great day. Hope to see you all mañana.